Surprise! I watched Jurassic World Rebirth. I got the T-Rex's head. I've also got a Spinosaur. So yeah, I went to see Jurassic World Rebirth. I'm in the UK for one day before I fly back to Japan. The reason why I'm here is because I was invited to a special event, but it was a Jurassic World event. It was really cool, met loads of community members in the UK as well. Then afterwards we just went to, or some of us went to see Jurassic World Rebirth. Some for the first time, others for a second time. For me it was my first time. And in this video, I want to split it into two halves. I want to have the first part to be spoiler free. So if anybody is wondering, so I'm checking my mic there, if I'm going to go into spoilers straight away, no, I will probably put it in a time thing if I remember. But I will say verbally when spoilers are going to come up. Just in case you haven't seen the movie, this is probably up 1 or 2 days after I've seen the movie or something like that. And if you want to know my initial thoughts, this is something I couldn't do for Dominion because Dominion came out like a month later in Japan and Rebirth is also coming a month later out in Japan. So that's why I'm here. So the movie, let's talk about Jurassic Park 7. Could you imagine that, like I couldn't when I was a kid, that when I watched Jurassic Park 3, that there would be 4 more? And there's going to be more. Like, we're going to get Jurassic Park 10, 20, God knows however long the franchise is viable, which is, I don't know, a symbolism for capitalism and everything that Jurassic Park kind of... Anyway, but the movie, what did I think of the movie? Well, I enjoyed it.
Oh my goodness!
I can't say that it's my favourite, because everyone's favourite is Jurassic Park. It just has to be, you know, it's classic. Classic Jurassic. This one, it flew by for me. Before I knew it, we were at the end, and this is a 2 hours, 2 hour 15-minute movie, and it flew by. It really did. I think that's a good thing, if I'm going to be honest. This felt like Jurassic Park 3.5 and better, basically. If you're a fan of Jurassic Park 3, you'll definitely be a fan of this one, I would have thought. It's a fun romp. It's action-packed, and if you're into kaiju movies, I heard somebody said that basically the Jurassic World franchise is a kaiju franchise. And that kind of makes sense to me. It's a movie where you don't really need to pay too much attention, if I'm going to be honest. And is that what I want to see from a Jurassic Park film? This is the 7th. If I have to keep track of all of the lore, I'm going to go insane. And this one, you know, it does it in certain ways. We'll get into that spoiler territory. But I enjoyed myself. And that's something that I didn't really feel with Dominion or maybe Fallen Kingdom to an extent, for me personally. I thought the actors did a really good job. You know, there were certain things with them that I thought the way it was done in this movie was really well done. I think the casting was very good. Some people have said, or at least I've heard, I can't say I've seen it myself, but some people have said that, oh, ScarJo, she's phoning it in. And yes, in interviews she says, oh, I've wanted to be in this franchise forever. And yet, I don't think I've ever seen a single clip of Scarlett Johansson saying that she wanted to be in Jurassic Park. Maybe it's because no one asked her the question, do you want to be in a Jurassic movie? Until now, in which case. But I think the acting was solid. They definitely developed the characters so that, and it just felt good in a way. I think certain characters you're not supposed to like, and of course that goes without saying. Generally, I enjoyed it. I really did. I think if you're a fan of Jurassic World, you'll probably enjoy this one. If you're maybe more focused on the lore aspect of it, there's certain things that are very like, why? But not that many. I really feel they kept on hyping this up as classic Jurassic. But I liked that I didn't have to think too hard. And I know that's a weird thing to say. I was put I was pointed in this direction and I enjoyed my time with it. I also think that there's not really too much to scrutinize in terms of, you know, I made a whole video review on Dominion and I could have done more, but that video was already maybe an hour and a half to almost 2 hours. With Rebirth, I feel like it's fast food. I don't know if that's a bad thing because we all like fast food from time to time, but it was like that thing was great. But then I'm not really thinking about it too hard. The set pieces and the scenes were great. There's a part where I felt like it captured what Jurassic Park has. I think it's higher for me than Dominion. It's higher than Fallen Kingdom, because Fallen Kingdom, I think, suffered from the middle child syndrome that, you knew this was going to be a trilogy and it's partway through. And Rebirth is a silly title. No spoilers, but all the other ones kind of make sense, but this one, I don't think it really made sense to call it that. Yeah, I think that's all I can really say about it until I get into spoilers. So if you are planning to go see the film, pause this video now, and we'll, come back when you've seen it at least once. So, spoiler territory. We have a lot to talk about. I didn't really have too many opinions. I thought the general public will like this, and I think they will. However, I don't think they'll watch it for a second time. It's one of those, oh, I've seen that. And that, I think, is due to the ending. So the distortus Rex, like the Giganotosaurus in Dominion, the Giganotosaurus Colin Trevorrow called the Joker. And after watching the movie, and I've heard from the theatrical, the extended release as well, there's no reason for that. No reason for the Giganotosaurus to be called the Joker, and no reason for it to die. And Distortus Rex, we had heard that we need to feel sorry for it because it's a product of, genetic meddling. And yet, I don't feel sorry for it. In fact, it is one of the dinosaurs that kills people and gets away with it. It has the highest body count, possibly, of any singular dinosaur in the franchise, I think. Rexy has killed one person in the entire franchise, and that was in Fallen Kingdom. And this thing, it was just like, the way it moved didn't feel like it was abnormal and it was struggling. So let's try and start from the beginning, because of course I'm doing this from a single preview, or a single viewing. Product placement the movie, so much so, I never thought I'd say this, but a freaking Snickers wrapper is the cause of Distortus Rex escaping? I have no idea why this isn't Isla Sorna. It makes no sense why it isn't. Or why this isn't Biosyn. This whole lab that we see at the start would make so much more sense if it's Biosyn. And the reason for that is the design language of the lab is just Biosyn. It's Dominion. You've got the yellow screens, you've got the futuristic smooth white, everywhere clinical white, people in the white hazmat suits. No idea why this is InGen. The only reason I think it's InGen is because this has to link to Indominus Rex. It doesn't have to. We don't have to make everything link together. And I said this to I think it was Tom Jurassic. It would make more sense, he said as well, that it would be a Biosyn. And what if the reason why Distortus Rex is the way it is because they didn't have a completed T-Rex genome? Maybe they did get the Barbasol can. Maybe some of the DNA was corrupted, it went off, and they're trying to complete the sequence. And that's why we have versions of Distortus Rex. Because I think it's 25 or 23 they're on right now. There is no reason as to why everything has two heads that I can think of. This is supposed to be the testing lab to make things more entertaining. Again, we're going with the direction that dinosaurs aren't anyone cares about, which is so stupid, and I really wish they would drop it. I really do. Give me another reason, because that one's just flimsy as all hell. We have zoos, we have conservation efforts. Why would anybody not care about a dinosaur? We have two-headed Mutodons, we have two-headed Triceratops is also in there, and the only time it appears in the movie. And we have a Distortus Rex that doesn't have two heads. It has no reason to look like the way it does, because everything else has two heads. Where's the two-headed T-Rex? What are we combining it with to make it that way? No explanations. And I don't feel as though we need to be drip-fed it, because that's the whole joy of it, working it out, having theories. But there's no reason that I can think of that it looks like that. And Gareth Edwards just went on record saying, oh, it's, some other dinosaur's been wrapped around it, and the only one I can think of is the Titanosaur, because of its big bulbous head, and that's what Distortus Rex has. And another thing is this Snickers wrapper that causes the air intake to be you know, take it like, I don't understand why that's a thing, for a start. Second, how even in a lab that's allowed. Everyone's wearing hazmat suit. Why is somebody allowed to walk in eating, of all things? And I don't know about you, but if I'm in a workplace or even out in the streets, if I'm eating something, dropping rubbish on the floor never crosses my brain. So why would it cross my head to do that, even in a rush, in a lab, where, you know, contaminants and everything, and the reason why it happens is because
money.
I think they got paid so much money. To think now, the franchise has come to a point where I can write out a Snickers wrapper causes somebody to die and possibly the destruction of an entire lab. That's a thing that is legit in the movie, in the franchise now. And another reason why it short circuits, it's very Final Destination. It's so left up into interpretation that I think it needs to be kind of clarified, because you have one set of doors that goes in, which is like this contamination room that we've seen in Dominion. You know, they go in, they get cleaned, and then they go into the enclosure. And this wrapper stops the door into the containment lab. And for a start, if that door was allowed to be left open, why wasn't the Distortus Rex asleep in there beforehand? Or are they allowed to just walk into the Distortus Rex enclosure while it's roaming about? Why were they shooting it if, you know, because that camera was in the lab of the scientists shooting on that little mini screen? Why could it just get out? Did it short circuit some gassing that was supposed to sedate it? Or it's just too, and especially later on when we see that same lab where the door you can into the Distortus Rex enclosure, it's gone. You just see out into the wilderness, into the jungle, into the forest. So the whole lab was ripped apart, ripped off. And it could be something that they're going to explain later. I don't think what we see is how Distortus Rex escapes. I think it's just one incident. So maybe we'll go back to see how the lab broke down, because obviously the experiments there continued, and that's how we got Indominus Rex. But we just needed to see Distortus Rex kill a person to know it was deadly, I think. We didn't see the events that led up to the lab being completely, you know, evacuated and all hell breaks loose, because from what it looked like, he grabbed a dude, walked away, that was it. And the lab still functions, from what I recall. And then, of course, we get the introductions of our main cast. The start where he's stuck in the traffic jam with the apatosaur, and he's got graffiti on. Apparently, his concept art from Dominion. Jack from Terradome, Jack Ewens, cleared that up. He caught that, actually, and especially on the bus, the school bus, it said Crichton School, obviously a nod to Michael Crichton, the creator of Jurassic Park, the novel. And then, again, we get the scene with Henry Loomis, who's a supervisor, and the museum's going out of business because they sold 12 tickets all today. Apparently it's free. I heard that the tickets are free, but only 12 people went in to see it, which makes no sense. Also having the fossil, there's a fossil of the Quetzal in there and the Mosasaur, which is almost like a roll call of what's coming up. TV spot, or, you know, on the wall projector, which kind of shows us what we're going to see in the movie. There's animated versions of Titanosaur and basically, you know, the island. Okay, I mean, I guess we're calling back to the Dr. DNA. The human deaths in this, yes, are more gruesome and realistic, but they felt more hard-hitting, and I don't know why. I felt like in this movie, the deaths carried weight, even with the character who was just like, I'm good-looking mercenary who kills. Like the guy who got dragged off by the Spinosaurs, and drowned and eaten and stuff. That felt like it was, oh wow, okay, he's, you know, it wasn't just an instant death. And I don't know why, just all the other deaths just didn't seem to carry a weight. And I don't know whether it was the music. It had an impact. For me, why that is, I can't explain it. Maybe on more subsequent viewings I'll be able to break down exactly. I do feel like Delacour, that's his name, I think. Or am I quoting a different Jurassic character? But the guy who gets killed by the Spinosaurs, I thought it would have carried more weight if he, because of course the neurotoxin, we've got neurotoxins, Lost World, Eddie Carr, one prick you're dead and whatever. He shoots at the Spinosaur and misses. And I thought, you know, what if he killed a Spinosaur, and it drowned, and it was gargled and died, and it was horrible. And then it would more justify his death, possibly, rather than him, protecting. And the only thing he had that was bad was like he didn't want to rescue the people. And really, Henry Loomis here is the moral compass. He's the Alan Grant and Jeff Goldblum character mixed into one, who's kind of not really a love interest for ScarJo, but they set up the characters before anything happened, which I thought was interesting. It did make for the start of the movie to be a little bit slower, and I think that's why some people did complain about it. But also it does stop, during the action and or when we're on the island, it stops us from having to have slow momentum to build these characters and to know what they've been through. And that a lot of them, they're not fresh mercenaries. They've got PTSD or they've lost their kid like Duncan has. And it makes him want to have a parental instinct, and he sort of projects onto the father, like, why did you bring these kids here? And I don't know, I thought the characters were quite interesting. More so than the Jurassic World ones. That being Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, I don't know. And, oh my god, so many of the trailer scenes, gone. And I think that was great. The T-Rex scene, although, when it roars to the camera, that was cut. I knew that was going to be cut because they already redid it with the T-Rex sleeping. But Zora going, none of what you said was good. Cut completely, because it's one of those one-liners like, that's funny, but also stop. And then also her, like, we can guarantee your safety, more or less. Instantly in the trailer goes to, more or less? Yeah, that's another like Marvelism, but it didn't happen that way in the movie. There was a little bit of gap, and then he sort of catches himself like, wait, more or less? Those worked out for, I think, in the film's benefit, that it didn't have the Marvelization of quips for no reason. But the Mosasaur scene I thought was good. It wasn't like, the thing is, I was thinking to myself, well, it's the Mosasaur. Why is it not just eating the boat? Why is it not, attacking it? But I don't think it's trying to, if I'm honest. You never see the Mosasaur eat somebody. And remember, it's an animal. A lot of animals investigate with their mouths. Never once does it attack the boat directly. It just sort of goes by, it grazes. It's having a chill time. And then, speaking of the Mosasaur, this is apparently the same one from Jurassic World. So, apparently, and they say that InGen lost track of it near Nublar. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe they just lost it, it's a different Mosasaur. And again, this is another reason why it makes sense to make this Biosyn. Because it would explain, we got Biosyn Quetzal, we've got InGen Quetzal or whatever, the new one in the movie. Why can't we have just the Biosyn Mosasaur? It's not just like it got a different sculpt. It's not like Rexy in the Jurassic World movies, where Rexy got beefed up because people were annoyed that it looked too skinny. This is a completely different Mosasaur. It has tail fluke on the back of it, which is more of a scientific discovery. It has like the whale on its belly. It has like a humpback, the lines running down it, which would expand when a whale takes in water. So it's a completely different Mosasaur, yet it's not. And actually, let's talk about the family. So, I didn't mind them. Especially the boyfriend. When I first caught the characters, when they're sailing and stuff, and this boyfriend comes out and he's all, oh, yeah, I'll do it later. At that point, when they get attacked, and for some odd reason, he's miles away, and they kind of explain it by showing that the sail, the sail of the mast of the ship when it capsizes catches him. And that's probably why he ends up all the way over there. But then it catches him at the end of the mast, which means that he would already have to be so far away from the boat, and then, unless he slipped down it, which wouldn't make sense because you would slide up with the buoyancy. But either way, it's just a tension scene to... Something about Universal or these movies does not want the Mosasaur to kill anybody except for Zara? Or Zora? I can't remember. I think it's Zara in Jurassic World. I can understand, like, this boyfriend's supposed to be annoying, right? Because then he has a bit of a character arc. In my head, when I first saw it, I was like, why is the father putting up with this? Why, like, your daughter dating, and then I don't know. I don't know whether it's because I've become a parent now, and I can sort of see it from a different perspective. If my daughter she dates and all that. You know, you don't want to ostracize. You don't be like, oh, I hate him, because then that'll have, you know, your daughter will then be like, why not? You know, so I kind of understand it a little bit better. And, you know, later on he steps up to the plate and helps out, but he still is this, I don't know, too lackadaisical, too chill. I don't know what the word is, but for being stuck in this situation. And oh my God. So we get on the island. Then we have a PG-13 scene where the other crew member dies. I thought it was a really good scene of the Spino just chilling on the side of the beach. That was brilliant. I thought that was a great way of showing. And this movie does a great thing for dinosaurs. It shows them sleeping. It shows them resting. They're not these killing machines. I'm getting the T-Rex later. And she gets PG-13 behind the thing. I don't know. I did feel it from Duncan's perspective. All of his friends dying, especially by the Quetzal. Then, of course, you get this crashed helicopter. That's how the main bad guy gets a gun. He sort of we sort of knew he was going to be a twist villain. I was kind of hoping that he wouldn't be a twist villain because it's so obvious. And then, you know, he lets her, the Mayday thing, which would make sense for him not to Mayday because they're in restricted space, but then letting her die? Okay, we're going a bit too far. But, you know, that's his character and it makes sense. We've got to have this villain. Let's just talk about the raptors. Wow, the raptors. Raptor what? Raptor who? You have a scene where this you know, the boyfriend goes off and takes a wicked waz, and the raptors are behind him. I quite liked that you see the raptors hunt, because normally you never see a raptor hunt. Jurassic Park, it just comes out and then attacks. You don't see it hunting. Lost World, you see them from a distance just walking towards their prey. This one you see it slowly stalk, and then it stops for a moment because it makes a noise, and it's like, oh, it doesn't want to put the prey. And then the Mutadons come. Then the Mutadons go, no, we're the big bad. This is a Raptor fans Jurassic Park 3. That's what this is. It's like, you thought raptors were cool? What about the ones with wings, huh? Yeah. It doesn't matter if you like the raptors. The Mutadons are the big baddie now. And apparently, because we got an article that said that the main bad guy shot at raptors and they ran away, and then the Mutadons appear. And that was completely cut. And supposedly that's one of the scenes that Gareth Edwards, there was 3 scenes that Gareth Edwards had to cut. And one of them he really didn't want to. And supposedly it could be the raptor scene. And they just ended up making them the Mutadons instead. Argentinasauruses, I think on Argentinasauruses, Titanosaurs are next. And it's a nice scene. I don't know how they hid in the tall grass. All of a sudden they just all get up from wherever. It was a nice scene. It was a nice calm after having the mosasaurs and the chase and the Mutadons, which didn't wake up the family, and the Baby Yoda insert, the Dolores that starts happening, and the young actor. I don't think any actors got my nerves at all. I thought they were all okay, passable. They went from passable to good in my book. The daughter who watched him, Delacour or whatever, die, who gets pulled by the Spinosaur. That would be traumatic. And the father recognizes that the Dolores is helping her because she completely shuts off. So we get a little bit of that without lingering too long on it. Titanosaur scene's good. You know, you see it from Henry Loomis's perspective and you hear his motif, which is the flute, which the actor plays in the orchestra, the actual actor does. And I thought that was, yeah, and later on you get another thing. The music played, I think, a couple of times, the Jurassic Park theme. I think the first time I heard the Jurassic Park theme in this movie, it was so weird because it was a journey to the island. You're like, da 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 da, like this big bombastic thing. And if I remember correctly, it didn't come at a time that warranted it. I was like, but this is the journey to the island theme. Why are we doing it here? And there was one scene where on the boat, Duncan and Zora are talking, and they're talking about their past, their troubles. And for me, anyway, there's a piano that's playing in the background. And of course, there's an emotional scene, it's supposed to be, but it was a bit too distracting, I felt. I don't think it needed to be there. It was almost like, you know, when you watch Netflix, oh, my God, they play, it's like, oh, we've broken up. And the next thing you know, the music's like, we broken up. I felt like that with the piano. It was like a bit like too much on this, but that was just me. It wasn't a big gripe. And I think the majority of the things in this movie aren't big gripes for me. It's just little things. For instance, when they have to go to the top of the mountains for the Quetzalcoatlus, I had someone in a party that they were saying, how did they get up to the top so quickly within the same day? I 100% get that. Realistically, how did they do it? It makes no sense. But also in context of a movie, we kind of just have to have them up there. And you know, next thing they walk all the way down in the temple and stuff. For me, the context is, how are ancient ruins in this, you know, whatever, Zora Bennett's character sort of realizing that there's more to life than this mercenary bill, there's more to life than the money. And of course, at the start, we get the how many zeros can I write on this check thing from Jurassic Park 3. And another thing, that's the reason why this is Jurassic Park 3 again. You know, I could write all the numbers on this check, how many zeros. Like I said, I think it's a movie that appeals to the masses. It's not really a hardcore lore enthusiasts kind of movie. And it doesn't need to even be a Jurassic World movie. This movie could have so been unrelated to Jurassic. In so many, take the engine off, and you've got, I don't know, you know, Kong Skull Island, basically. There's so many things in this movie that are just like, we have no idea how that got there. We saw the Megalodon jaws for so long in the marketing, in screenshots, and we thought, oh, it's just like a prop sort of thing. It won't actually be a Megalodon. I think it might have been. Because a scene beforehand, we have a fishing net dump a Dunkleosteus skull on the dock. Okay, where did that come from? Who? I mean, we're kind of just saying that genetic power is out in the world, and we can get DNA from anywhere. Can we? There's no mosquito feeding on a Dunkleosteus, and there's no mosquito feeding on a mosasaur. I mean, maybe, you know, a fossil washed up, and that's the amber. That was the whole point. Amber was the only way to preserve the DNA in the Jurassic universe. I don't know about any other way that I've seen them show, but that could just be me. So we have a Dunkleosteus, and then we get on the island. We have what seems to be a Titanoboa. It's too small, but it does come out for a bit, and it's definitely a snake. It's not an amphibian. It's got like, you know, it seems to be a part of a snake that slithers back into the water. It's either a baby Titanoboa, and then we have a giant salamander, or some sort of amphibian. We're talking about Diplocalus, although it didn't have the head. It could have so easily been a Diplocalus, but they didn't make it a Diplocalus. I have a mod in Path of Titans that looks like that thing. And it was the giant salamander mod. It looks it has the spike running down the back of it. It has the same head. I need to put side by side of that thing and my mod in Path of Titans, because it's literally the same. And then we had this thing, this little green creature, a flying dinosaur, flying reptile, which is in Jurassic World Alive. I think it is coming to Jurassic World the game, so it is Jurassic of some sort. And we really don't know where it felt like with Jurassic World, the trilogy, now it's a quad whatever, it felt like they had to stick to certain things when it came to species. Was it on InGen's list? Was it on Isla Sorna? Was it on Nublar? They were the main things. Anything new was Indominus Rex, Indoraptor, Scorpius Rex. You know, these were things made in a lab. And with this movie, who knows? And in a way, for me personally, I found that refreshing. I found that I didn't need to go consult the dossier, like, ooh, how did we get done? It felt like a monster movie. It was like, we're on an island, who knows what's there? How does the island's vegetation support 100 titanosaurs? I don't know. Is the island that big? How much do they need to eat continuously? Because sauropods basically needed to. You know, there's a lot of that gets thrown out just because they wanted to make a fun movie, and I think for the most part they succeeded. So yeah, we have the Mutadons, and they filled the role of the raptors. The Distortus Rex filled the role of the T-Rex, and Distortus Rex, I love its design. I love that it is just this horror, this beast that seems to be unstoppable. And I feel as though that's what the ending was missing. This is the only big bad in the franchise that survives, except for the Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3. They both have water scenes. They both kill people, I suppose. Yeah, Spinosaurus kills at the start and then that's it. And then they just walk away. Duncan survives because he was just a likable character and we need a Billy insert to survive at the end to psych out. Who knows how he got away? I thought, the Distortus Rex is a T-Rex, right? In Jurassic, T-Rex's vision is based on movement. And I went to this event and they said the same thing. Distortus Rex, you need to stay still. So obviously they've been given that from Universal, whatever.
Land-based threats. What are we dealing with here? We're dealing with the D-Rex. Humongous.
Humongous what?
Okay. She has vision based on movement.
Then I don't understand why the guy in the lab didn't stand still, didn't find a different way, hide in a corner. If it has bad eyesight, he didn't need to. I mean, he was basically just knocking on the door. He wasn't jumping around or doing anything else. Why did the Distortus Rex pick him up then? I don't know, we're playing fast and loose with the rules, I suppose, when we're doing this. And then the big baddie guy, he gets his comeuppance driving off. How does the Jeep still work after 17 years? The battery would be dead. For a start, the oil would have disintegrated and evaporated. But are we... There's certain things that you have to, for the sake of a movie, I'll give it a pass. For instance, the raft scene. The scene that the movie wanted to promote, spoiled to all hell in the promotions. Marketing for this movie was absolutely terrible. It gave so much away. And I was going to say it didn't give the ending away, but what ending? And actually, in the promotion things, they showed the final boat they escaped in. So you could see everybody who was in that boat. And so you knew who would survive. Because there was no way that anyone's getting in that boat at night and it not being the ending. And it was the ending. Apparently the budget, or the marketing budget was like, in comparison to Dominion, it was so cut. Which explains why they really were like, we don't have options to make anything or try here. We've just got to show them it. They're going to be like, do you want to see it, please? There's a T-Rex in it. But the raft scene was great. Yes, we had a Dilophosaurus for a cameo. Did it need to use its frill? I mean, not really. But again, it's a Dilophosaurus. It's threatening. It wasn't attacking. It was protecting. It's not kill. It's scavenge kill. It was probably from the T-Rex. That's why it was sleepy. I know people were annoyed online when we saw her inflate the raft, push it in the water, and the T-Rex vanished. But, it's part of movie language to build this. Not everything has to make sense. You can forgive things. Like, again, the Dolores seems to follow this family around till the ends of the earth and back again for no reason. It doesn't act like a normal animal would. And again, they, just like in Lost World, the compies aren't afraid until they're given a reason to be afraid, and then they attack and kill him. Dieter Stark, that is. Aqualops has no reason to be afraid of humans. It gets fed. I stick with these people. I get fed. Why not? But the fact that it followed them the whole way, it just smelt the merchandise. It smelt the product placement. It was like, well, I'll go. Apart from it obviously being the baby cute thing, that's why it's in the movie. But I can forgive it. I can forgive the movie for that. But the raft being bright yellow, which is the colour of the raft in that classic illustration you've seen of the raft scene from Jurassic Park. The novel had it. And also the river raft adventure thing from Universal. The actual Jurassic Park ride itself was a yellow raft. So it's very Jurassic Park coded in that respect. And this is some, I can't say this is 100% my own original connections, but it is true. Jack Ewan's found that out. He's like, oh, that's that. It's such a shame that they showed it all. I made my raft videos on my channel as a joke to be like, stop it. You're giving too much away. You put another little bit in, I'll upload it and show that you're showing too much. Because the only thing we didn't see was the T-Rex drinking. And then a pteranodon goes by. But the way the T-Rex acts is great. It's a shame that it's the only scene with the T-Rex. But, you know, it doesn't paw, but, you know, it pokes its head under the water to try and see where they are. It puts its feet on the raft to test if this is something I can eat. Because remember, yellow in nature isn't a colour that you should put your mouth around. It's dangerous. It's toxic. Yellow, stay away. Bright yellow. So it doesn't, you know, bite it straight away. It doesn't know what this thing is. I am amazed this raft didn't get punctured. Oh my god. A bite from a T-Rex, one of the most powerful bites of all time. That raft. It should have been branded. It should have been like Snickers raft. We've already got Snickers causing almost the inciting incident of this whole thing. Why don't we have the raft be made out of Snickers wrappers? It definitely wouldn't have punctured them, that's for sure. I love that 17 years later, this petrol station, without fail, every night gets lit up and plays probably the same music, the same song. No wonder everything, distortus Rex is so annoyed at everything and wants to kill everybody. It has to listen to that and bright lights every night. The helicopter coming in, I thought, was going to be a Lost World nod. Because there's one point where the rescue helicopter is in the same shot as the Mutodons. Helicopter in the top right, Mutodons in the bottom left. We've seen them fly around. These things can take off. I don't know how. I don't know how they can take off. They seem super heavy. But they can lift raptors, which could, you know, should be hollow boned anyway. But my goodness, these things are strong. You know, for instance, you look at a Quetzalcoatlus, a wingspan that's how long to lift its body, but it'll still be hollow boned and everything. You know, these Mutodons are bulky buggers. I thought that was going to be a Lost World nod. You know, that we have them attack the helicopter, but no, distortus Rex has to be the thing. I thought that was quite cool. Almost reminded me of Deep Blue Sea, where the helicopter gets pulled down by the sharks in that one. From there on out, seemed to go out with a whimper. Distortus Rex gets all of its screen time, it's gorgeous. I love it. Ankylosaur gets a little screen time as well. It's definitely a different model. You only see a little bit of the side of its head, but it's not Jurassic Park 3, and it's not, I don't think it's Jurassic World. The red compies as well get a little glimpse. Love the red compies. We've got the connotation with the poison dart frogs, you know. And if it is like the novel, they should be venomous. We didn't get to see that. Am I asking too much? I don't know. But anyway, on to the ending. Yeah, that they escape on a boat. And the boat itself is definitely not seaworthy. It's not a boat you take on the open ocean with waves that can be 50 foot high. Good God. Oh dear. And then we get like the dolphins. Like, oh, because she mentioned, oh, are they dolphins? I'd like to see dolphins or something like that. At the start, and the little kid gets to see dolphins at the end for that reason. And it's just, hey, Jurassic Park. And the main bad guy gets eaten. And, you know, he chained the DNA to himself because I was expecting the whole DNA thing to be a bait and switch, to be like it was just to get there and, you know, maybe do something else nefarious to claim some data back from the lab, maybe. But no, nothing like that at all. It literally was them making a life-saving cure. I thought that was a red herring. Maybe I'm expecting a bit too much. Who knows? But the ending, like, it made sense in Jurassic Park to have pelicans or condors. I think they were pelicans though. Because it's like, oh, they're birds, they're the surviving ancestors, and they're leaving the island, and then dinosaurs are surviving and that. But we just get dolphins, and then another Off Into the Sunset. Before you know it, directed by Gareth Edwards. Screenplay, David Cobb. Kevin Cobb. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. And I've pondered why we have Rebirth in the title, why it's classic Jurassic. I don't think anything about it is classic Jurassic. I don't think anything about it makes sense for it to be Rebirth. Dominion made sense. Jeff says it in the movie. But also to have Dominion on the world. Dinosaurs are released. Are they going to take over the world? No, they're dying. Again, that whole plotline doesn't make sense with the fact that, you know, we had Blue and Beta surviving in the bloody snow for God knows how long? 3 years up there? I don't know. Yeah, and afterwards, I was really thinking, this was such an okay movie that it's not eliciting any reaction from me. All I'm left with was, they were cool set pieces, they were cool dinosaurs. It was alright. Maybe criminally so. Especially after how controversial Dominion was. And, you know, if you want to see my thoughts on Dominion, I actually put a proper review of that movie. Because I could condense all my thoughts. Maybe I'll do it with this one. But there's nothing in it that's really sparked a, no, it should be this way. It should be this. It's just one of those, like, it was alright. Yeah. It will be interesting to see what everyone else thinks about it. You know, once the audience scores come in, I think it will be generally perceived as pretty good in the public. It'll be like, oh, it was a fun monster movie, but then 5 years later, they'll get it confused with Godzilla. That's what I think. They'll be like, wait, wasn't that Godzilla? No, I don't know. Unlike the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3, which has survived, and I'm really glad that it did not show up in this movie. Because I remember reading something not too long ago where I think somebody, well, obviously they were just bullcrapping around saying that, oh, you need to see Jurassic World 3 because the Spinosaurs in this one. Obviously they were just meaning Spinosaurs in general, I guess. And how many there are, who knows? There was no landmines, which we saw in some of the toys, which would have been cool. Maybe they placed landmines to protect it or to keep the dinosaurs on the island. I'm surprised that after 17 years, there's a fully functioning Titanosaur herd on the island. Were they always on the island? Were they allowed to breed? Or do they just reproduce like rabbits and they grow at an accelerated speed? The giant vehicle is there. This terraforming 40k vehicle, which everyone's saying, oh, these giant construction vehicles exist. Yeah, but they're not on a tiny island. How do you transport something like that? So I think this movie, it's made me want more. Like, there's more questions that have been raised than have been answered. Okay, here we go. Because you all want to see it. What's my rankings? Of course, Jurassic Park is first. Lost World for me, because it was a movie that came out at the right time. I was a kid. I actually went to see it in the cinema. And it was what I would do with my toys all the time. Go to an island, explore, have a mission, people die, it's dumb fun. Jurassic Park, Lost World, and then from there, it's kind of a blur. Sorry, battery died there. I've been yabbering, obviously, for too long. It's a toss-up between Jurassic World and this movie. Because I don't think I rewatched Jurassic World that much. Obviously, I want to rewatch this one, and maybe that'll change over time. So number 3, Rebirth. Number 4, Jurassic World. Number 5, Jurassic Park 3. And then the last two, it's a Dominion. As much as I hate what they did with Alan Grant's arc, his story, the character, how little he had to do in the movie, I still have watched Dominion more times than I've watched Fallen Kingdom. And I don't know whether that is, it is the lowest rated one, but for me personally, just Fallen Kingdom, apart from the intro, I can't be bothered most of the time. Again, I think it's a middle child syndrome, right? Like, you have to have so much context beforehand, and then it doesn't end. You know, it's another movie. Whereas Dominion felt like, at least it was enclosed. At least it had an end to it, and it looked promising, I guess, on a start. And the old cast went back. So yeah, Jurassic World Rebirth, not the best, not the worst. I mean, I placed it number 3, I suppose, but apart from number 1 and 2 spots, which I absolutely adore those movies. It's okay. Like I said, I think it's just a fast food. I think it looks pretty. It was pretty in certain places. Some of the CG, I think, especially the Titanosaur herd, when you see it the long shot, they're still pushing, and it's so annoying. They're still pushing the actual message of Jurassic Park, which is genetic meddling. and how fleeting life is and how we're going towards our extinction. Henry Loomis fills in that character. Like I said, Alan Grant, Jeff Goldblum, Ian Malcolm character merge into one. Felt right. That felt like a Jurassic thing to put in. Sorry, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I've talked for too long. Apparently they're already working on the sequel, or the 5th Jurassic World movie, the 8th Jurassic Park movie, and apparently Scarlett Johansson's going to be joining back, and Gareth Edwards to direct, I think, is all that we know so far, possibly. On its own, I feel like with the future movies, we'll get more context. Well, maybe we'll find out why the D-Rex is broken out. And you know what it is? I wouldn't be surprised if these other movies, or the sequel movies, subsequent movies, follow the D-Rex, the distortus. Maybe we'll find out about the other ones that were made, or the other ones on the island. What happened to those ones? How did it break out in the first place? It should have been Easel Sauna, or if it wasn't Easel Sauna, it should have been Biosyn. And the explanation for the D-Rex would have made so much more sense. Because whatever happened on this island 17 years ago, it wasn't the end of the lab. It was just an incident. Because there's not, like, was that how the lab broke down and everything? You had a helicopter here in the movie that people died in, they crash landed or something. Was that brought down by the Mutadons? Was that a rescue effort? Somebody said that on the helicopter was some army. I can't remember, like a local or a country nearbye's army was on there or something like that. So I don't think that we have to have our hand held when it comes to these movies, but some things you might want to explain a little bit more. But yeah, no, I'll not yabber on anymore. You don't want to listen to. I've got nothing more to add at this point. I will watch it again at some point, probably when it comes out in Japan in August 8th, I think it is. So I've got a whole month to wait till it comes out there. They love hands, I will say. Jurassic Park, you had Ray Arnold's arm. Lost World, you had the arm on the boat. And then in this one, you have the arm on the case, on the suitcase, you know, the DNA embryo case or whatever it was. They love just severed arms. Indoraptor eats, what is he called? I can't remember his name. He eats his arm. It has no blood or anything, which is weird. So they love ripping arms off. But it was fresh. I enjoyed it. I don't know how much I enjoyed it, how well it will age. I don't think it'll do crazy well at the box office. I think it'll be positively seen by most people. The reviews that were saying that it's soulless and is just, you know, I don't think there was any need for that sort of venom, I suppose. It didn't feel like it warranted anything like that. Scarlett Johansson's character wasn't phoning it in. I don't think so. I don't think, you know, you knew Scarlett Johansson's character wasn't going to die. You knew Henry Loomis's, you know, that character wasn't going to die. And Duncan could have, didn't, but would have made sense from that. You knew the family wasn't going to die. The boyfriend was probably the only one that could have. And who knows how he ended up surviving the attack of the Mutadons and the Raptors, and then went straight back to peeing. The joke being that, you know, you can't stop midstream sort of thing. And even when the whole kerfuffle was happening behind him, he never really turned around, I don't think, until after it was over. If you like the video, leave a like. This is my first, again, review that I've done since Fallen Kingdom. Initial reactions. For reasons that it didn't come out in Japan, I was in the UK. So yeah, interesting. We were in this lovely cozy hotel and I flew in to the UK yesterday. I'm flying out back to Japan tomorrow. So basically came in just for this and an event. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Oh, bye-bye.